Authentic, important conversations help us understand life and relationships better and make us feel connected. Those connections build a community where you belong because your contributions matter. That's why Shelley and Toby are bringing you News and Views. Join us to explore ideas, news, opinions, experiences, and real-life stories. Live on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Come chat about life with your friends. Hello.
Hi, friend.
Good evening and welcome to News and Views. I'm your host, Shelley Carney. Tonight we're going to be having a very special guest, Mr. Dan Barbarisi, the author of Chasing the Thrill.
And the updated version of Chasing the Thrill, which will be out May 24th. So we're going to talk with Dan. We got to get some of the housekeeping out of the way first because you know me, right? So first of all, I'd like you to make sure that before you leave tonight, you like our video. YouTube likes it when you like our video. Share with your family, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, the entirety of your social network so that we can what?
Grow the channel.
Because we want to grow this channel. Finally, if you're not already a subscriber to Messages and Methods / News and Views, this would be the ideal time to subscribe. That way, every time we schedule a live stream or every time we start a live stream, you'll be immediately informed and as a result,
in the know.
God bless us all, in the know. Thank you, baby Jesus. So usually at this point, I let you know that the super chat light is lit. But I'm going to show you something, and then I'm going to tell you a story. All right. So just give me a second. Let me show you what I'm going to show you. Again. Step. Good.
She's leaning too much in the
I know, but we have to do what we can to get her moving.
Okay.
I'm trying to control the knee and her at the same time.
I see.
Lean. Step. Good. Step. Good. And let's rest. Only because I'm getting tired.
So that was a 30-second video that Shelley made of her mother. As we've mentioned several times over the past couple of shows, Shelley was visiting with her mother for about a week and a half. 2 weeks before that, her mother had a stroke, and it's debilitating in the sense that it affected the whole left side of her body. You could see that her arm was in a sling. And So Shelley and I were both wondering separately, because we were in different cities, about what we could do to help. And as soon as Shelley walked in this afternoon, she came back this morning. As soon as she walked in this afternoon, she said, I have an idea for a project. And Shelley knows the fastest way, you know how some people get to their heart via their stomach? Fastest way to get my heart is tell me you have a project. So she said, here's the project. And what she said is, Kevin and Shelley and I are going to go out to Chandler, Arizona, which is where her mom lives. And we're going to set up a studio. And then once that studio inside their house. Now they have nothing in the way of technology. They still use landline phones, right? They don't have anything in the way of technology. They have a laptop that they've never used. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a small studio, kind of a studio in one of the spare bedrooms that Shelley is going to use, because Shelley's going to go out there and she's going to stay with her mom for 2 months. That means my business partner, I have to look at it from that perspective. My business partner is not going to be in the studio with me every week, several times a week, nor is she going to be able to do the show. So at least what I've got to do is set up something that not only Shelley could use, but show her mother and her dad how they can use it to stay in touch with not only their family members, with her doctors, because that could save her the trip, because she's going to have a hard time getting in and out of cars until she rehabilitates, right? So we decided that was going to be the project. And don't get me wrong, if we needed to do this, it's not like I can't afford it. We can do this. But occasionally you guys see fit, because of what we're doing, to donate to us via super chat. And what I would ask you to do for the next week or so, whatever shows that we do, super chat is good, but it's always a month and a half out, and YouTube takes 30%. So if there's anything that you would normally donate to us in super chat, donate to us via paypal.me/A Gypsy's Kiss. It's on the screen and it's going to be scrolling by the banner. All that money is going to go to the expense of putting this unit into Shelley's mom's house. and I need it. I've already told Shelley that I'm going to pay for half of it because I need to have access to Shelley for the 2 months that she's with her mom. And then the other part, what she leaves behind and trains her mom with, is going to be enable her mom to communicate with the rest of her family. Okay.
Just a reminder that May is National Stroke Awareness Month. So I would like all of you to, learn more about it and what you can do to prevent it. What are the signs and symptoms of it, so that this doesn't happen to you or a family member.
And Shelley's mom she's 80. We were going to go out. You knew that we were planning to go out there for her birthday. And this happened before we went out. And she was a very active 80. She's a Dickens of a card player. She beat the hell out of me at cards every time. She was very active. And this had an impact on her, not only from the physical perspective, but it has an impact on the mental and emotionally perspective, because you start realizing, oh, this can happen to me. And she's going through that. And we want to make her as available as we possibly can to the members of the family. And that's what this is all about. So this is not begging you for donations. We will get this done one way or the other. But if you feel like doing a super chat tonight, instead of doing the super chat, go to paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss and put it into the PayPal account. And that way, God bless you, YouTube. I'm not complaining here. And we'll do it for the next couple of weeks. Go to paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss and put it in there. And that way, YouTube doesn't take our 30% of what we're trying to do here. Okay. All right. So do I have any more announcements or anything else before?
No, just wanted to greet the people in the room really quickly.
Okay.
And we'll get started.
Why don't you go ahead and say hi?
Okay. Hello to all of our friends in the room, including Teach, Ghost Dancer Radio, Long Way to Tipperary,
One of our
Treasure
members.
Warriors.
Treasure Warriors.
Chasing Indy.
Ben, is that you and Ashley, or just one or the other of you when you say Treasure Warriors?
We have Lisa Cesari, Rudy Green, GL Cannon, one of our winners.
There's a good one for you.
David Piasano. Why do Dan and
Says-
Shelley look 5 years younger in that picture? Because Toby is a magician when it comes to taking photos.
Yeah, I do that. I do that. I'm good with my pictures. People come over. As a matter of fact, one of our clients is coming over tomorrow to have me take her picture because we're helping her publish her book. So you're in the right place, Chasing Indy. Thanks for joining us tonight.
That's right. Debbie Teal is here.
GL Cannon's in with us.
We have JK Pioneer. And I saw John Miller. John Miller said he also had to go through stroke recovery, and it was very brutal. So
Yeah.
he understands. And going through something like this makes you very empathetic towards people. And stroke is very prevalent in our society nowadays. We just don't realize it. But if somebody's having a hard time speaking to you and putting words together, have some sympathy and empathy for them, because it could be that they're a stroke survivor.
So as you know, Shelley's husband just came through a winning a bout with cancer. So this has just followed on to that. So there's a lot of pressure on the family from a medical perspective. We're going to try to make it as easy as possible. And I'm going to be without a partner.
To be such a sob story, guys.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a sob story.
No.
We're not like that. We look to what we can do next.
We have a lot of hope.
I'm going to miss her for 2 months, but if we put this in place, we'll still be able to communicate. She'll be able to participate in the shows and help with our clients. So Jeremy's in the room. Hi, Jeremy. Okay, so let me take this banner down. Just keep that in mind. It's across the scroll, the crawl rather than super chat. Go to paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss and make your super chat donation there. That would be very helpful. So there was one other thing that I wanted to say before we went to our interview. What was it?
Are you doing a book?
Oh, do you have a trivia question for tonight?
Oh, no.
Oh, you
No,
better think
maybe
of that.
Dan will have one.
Okay, good. Send me a book. Maybe he can do it based on his book. Okay. So don't
Yeah.
forget, at the end of the night, we will be giving away. Let me see. We'll be giving away. So Shelley or Dan will come up with a trivia question. We'll give away either a copy of A Gypsy's Kiss or a copy of our latest book, Livecast Life. And you'll get 2 of the Mariah postcards and 2 challenge coins, AGK challenge coins, one with the treasure chest on the back, and one with Mariah's flower.
Merit. The flower.
It's not a marigold. It's
It's not a marigold.
It's a. It's Louisiana's. It's Louisiana's state flower.
Somebody in the room tell us what kind of flower it is.
Yeah, remember what
There's
kind of
your trivia
magnolia.
question.
Magnolia. There's your trivia question. There you see. Okay, and then the last thing I just remember what I needed to say. If any of you live in Cincinnati and would like to help a poor soul out, there's some things in that auction for Forrest Fenn's the artifacts that they're putting up for auction. There's a couple of little tiny things that I want to get, but they don't ship. You have to have somebody pick it up and arrange for shipping. So if you live in Cincinnati, send me a text message to our number 505-750-2744, and I will pay you to pick them up and ship them to me and reimburse all your expenses to do that. So if you're Cincinnati, I know Rick is, and who else was there? Anybody in the Cincinnati area, send me a text message 505.
I hear a drum roll. I think our guest is ready to come out.
Okay, he's ready to
Come out from behind the curtain.
You ready? All right, here we go. Introducing our good friend Dan Barbarisi.
Ta-da!
Oh, hello guys. How you doing?
I'm very good, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. First of all, Shelley, I am again very sorry to hear about what happened to your mother, and this. I'm happy that I can be a part of this in some way. It sounds like you guys are doing some great stuff to, try to help out, and raise her quality of life right now, and that's awesome. So I'm happy that I can participate in that in any way, shape, or form.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And, it was right up our alley in the sense that we were both thinking about what we could do to help. And it was obvious that the most rational thing for us to do is put our money and time into setting something like, she's not going to be live streaming, but this will give her the opportunity to speak with family members and stay in communications with her doctors and things like that. So we think it's going to be a big help.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you and I haven't talked since you published the book, and since your boys have grown up.
Yes.
And you're going to weddings with them. So
yes.
Tell me what it's been since the last time you were here for cocktails.
Right, that was a number of years ago now.
Yeah,
that was
that's why that picture
2019, I think.
Yeah,
it was sometime in early to mid 2019.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yes, a lot has clearly happened since then. In the world of Fenn and outside it. I mostly do my job at the Athletic. Where I'm an editor there and work on baseball stuff. So actually, the Red Sox finished, so I will need to get back to that after this and edit some stories. But my kids are almost 5 and almost 3 now, and it is a true pleasure. Yeah, watching them grow up and become little people and little animals, and they truly are. Because I have 2 little boys, and they are out of their mind. But I blame my own genetics for that, so that's okay. So, but it really is. It's like so fun because they do things, and then you get to play with them, and I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know because kids are cool, but it is still pretty incredible to experience it in the day to day. Every time they learn something new or say something, precocious or cute, and you're like, "That's my kid, I love it." Yeah. So that's honestly most of what I do with my time. But I clearly, the book came out right around now last year, and the publisher wanted the paperback edition, which is good. So they asked me to, add a small epilogue for that, and did not give me a lot of space for it, but that's okay. And so I tried to, squeeze in what I could in that very limited amount of space, but, tried to kind of just catch things up to where I could, because this is probably the last time I'm going to get to update the story, which stinks because a lot of things have happened in the very, very recent past, which I would have loved to get in there. But, I had to have this thing in January. I think people never realize how early you have to. The book production timetable is, I think that's certainly something before I got involved in writing books I had no concept of. But so, it's basically like I brought it as up to date as I could based on where I could get a while back, and then, watched a bunch of other things happen, which is a little bit frustrating as an author, but there's only so much I can do. So, so paperback comes out, I think next week or
May
something.
24th. Yeah, we're going to show it here in just a minute.
Yes, it's funny because I don't even have copies of it yet. It's like the way this stuff goes. People are like, can I get a copy? I'm like, when I get a copy, let me know and I'll let you know. But it is always kind of funny how, at least to me, how sometimes disconnected the author themselves is from the processes that happen at the publisher level.
Yeah. So I'll show the book in just a bit, and I want you to know that your publisher did send us a PDF version
Good
of
job,
it.
publisher.
So that worked out just perfectly for us because we were afraid we weren't going to have anything to work with.
Yes.
In order to ask you questions. So tell me about your life now. Are you a full-time author, or are you employed by someone now? Or
No, yeah. No, I mean, I've always authoring has always been on the side for me, essentially. So, I got my full-time job is at the Athletic, big international sports website, where I'm a senior editor there
Yeah.
and help to manage essentially now our baseball coverage. I used to kind of run the Boston operations there, but now I do baseball. And so, yeah, that's honestly where most of my time goes. A lot of this book was done essentially on vacations from that. So I spent, any vacation time I had for a number of years flying out to, the Rocky Mountain area and squeezing any time I could out to get there to get book reporting done and searching and all that stuff. So, now I can actually potentially, in theory, go on a vacation or two, which would be lovely. I may actually go on one this summer, which will be the first one in a very long time. So, hooray, the world is opening back up. And yes, my whole family had COVID a few weeks ago, which was unpleasant. But we are now done with that. So I guess you get to go eat in restaurants with impunity now and all that. So that's been kind of nice. I went and had ramen today. It was like, hey, when's the last time I did this? So getting back into the world. So
nice.
That's most of my time.
So let's transition over to talking about this topic, the topic on which you wrote the book. And I'm going to get into something that's going to be a little bit touchy, and I'll give you the opportunity to address it in any way you want. But one of the things and I'm going to probably express my opinion in this matter, the chase for me was a big period of 10 years worth of celebration, followed by what I'd refer to as a collapsing ending. It just didn't end for me in the way that I would hope. Now, the perfect ending for me would have been I had found it and I got it off to Sotheby's as quickly. But I think a lot of people are disappointed. Part of it from, oh rats, I didn't find it. But it struck me that for as marketing astute as Fenn was, he just didn't handle the ending well. How do you feel about it?
I fully and completely understand that. I mean, yeah, I think for everyone but the finder, and probably even for some ways for him, it's an unsatisfying ending, on multiple levels. And, nobody got certainly initially any of the information that I think we all wanted.
Right.
It started out, we didn't even know what state, we didn't have pictures, we didn't have anything. And I fully understand and, agree with the level of frustration on that. And then people saying, well, why can't I know where the location is? And why can't we know this? Why can't we know that? And, as a professional inquisitor myself, I share a lot of those frustrations and have, for some time. And I completely understand, why whenever there's a lack of information, other things fill that vacuum. And so I think that's to be, fully expected and understood. And I agree with you that I think Fenn, look, I think Fenn thought he was going to outlive the chase. So,
right.
or the chase was going to outlive him, pardon me,
right.
It was not going to be found during his lifetime. So I think in some ways he didn't maybe deal with it as well as he could have in preparing for what came after. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, there's no neat bow to it, and that can be super frustrating. And, I think for pretty much everyone involved in the chase.
So, and I know you're not the only one that feels like that way, feels that way. I'm not the only one that feels that way. But as you're probably aware, because you weren't involved in a couple of them, there were several suits while he was still living and endured after he had passed that were eventually all dismissed. And I know your name was mentioned in one of those. The only thing that's active right now, which we are following, is the probate case, only because there was a chance we were going to hear from Jack. I don't think that's true anymore, just because of the number of delays. But I want to talk about the elephant in the room a little bit, and I'm going to leave it up to you as to how much you want to say. And if you say, I don't want to talk about it, I'm okay with that. I know that one of the searchers, who happens to be a friend of mine, filed suit against you for things that you published in the book.
What? I had no idea. Yes, that did happen. It's look, I like to talk, and quite frankly, I would love to be able to respond to all of that. But my lawyers say that
that's
I'm
what
not
I was
allowed to do
afraid
that.
of.
That I cannot, speak to all these things, which is to me unfortunate because I would very much like to. But what I did talk to them about, I said, look, please let me respond to this in some way, shape, or form. And they said that I could essentially read the letter that they had sent. So that, these are not my words, but this is, my lawyer at Penguin Random House. And so I can at least read that and, have some level of response in the universe, which is something I would very much like to have. Yeah. But so I'll read that. But other than that, I can't take any questions or address it in any way, shape, or form. So, don't bother asking, because I'm not going to. That's not really, frankly, up to me.
I'm okay with that. Like I said, I wanted to give you an opportunity if you want to.
Yeah, sure. No, I got
was going to drop
nice
it.
little letter that these guys wrote. Let's see. So so the Penguin Random House lawyer, this guy named Daniel Novak, and he, a year ago, right around this time, the person who's suing me had sent a letter demanding that all copies of the book be destroyed. And so they wrote a letter back in response to that. And she said, Dear Miss 30 Acre, I am counsel to Alfred A. Knopf, an imprint of Penguin Random House. I write in response to your May 15th, 2021 letter to Penguin Random House, requesting that we remove your name from Chasing the Thrill by Daniel Barbarisi. We respectfully decline your request. Chasing the Thrill is a journalistic account of highly newsworthy events. As one of the most prominent searchers and blog operators of Forrest Fenn's treasure, it would be impossible to accurately chronicle the history of the chase without referencing your prominent status in the searcher community. You have been interviewed numerous times about the search, run a chase-related business, and even wrote a book about Fenn under your real name. Mr. Barbarisi approached you as a journalist, and therefore you had no expectation of privacy in the information you provided him. Further, he confirmed to me that at no point did he offer or agree that your name would not be used, or that any information attributed to you would be off the record. With respect to the issue of bankruptcy, Mr. Barbarisi does not claim that you filed bankruptcy. Rather, he cites multiple sources who claim that you sacrificed your savings to the chase. As a non-lawyer, Mr. Barbarisi uses the word bankrupt in its colloquial rather than its legal sense, meaning extreme financial hardship. When he reached out to you with questions, you did not dispute this hardship. Further, even literal bankruptcy is not defamatory under the law. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any further questions or concerns. Sincerely, Daniel Novak. Let's see. And so, that's what he wrote. And also when the New York Post asked for comment a week ago or 2 weeks, whatever that was, he wrote another note to them. So he said I could read that too. Again, these are his words, not mine. But he said, Chasing the Thrill is a deeply researched and responsibly reported work of journalism. The book does not claim that Stephanie 30 Acre filed for bankruptcy, rather than on-the-record sources quoted as saying she went bankrupt, which any reasonable reader would interpret to mean broke. Multiple sources, including Forrest Fenn himself, corroborated that Miss 30 Acre exhausted her savings pursuing the treasure. Publicly available records confirm her financial difficulties. Nowhere in her complaint does she deny any of this. Rather, she focuses on a narrow legal parsing of the phrase went bankrupt. With respect to naming her in the book, Miss 30 Acre is among the most prominent public figures associated with the chase. We will vigorously defend this meritless case. So that's what they wrote about it. That's really all I am allowed to say about it. So that's what I got.
Well, I'm sure sooner or later, if the case were not to be dismissed at some point, that you'll get the opportunity to kind of express your feelings about it, as will the publisher themselves. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. I wanted to.
Sure.
I wasn't quite sure how to handle it, but I wanted to give you a chance to address it, since there's a lot of conversation.
Next time, maybe do what we did and just write about dead people.
I am a history buff, so
yeah. So let's take it back to the book. And of course, when I wrote the review for the book on Amazon, I said it was a very accurate chronicle of the period of time that I was involved with, because it was about the same period. And I was really impressed with it. And then, of course, with the new paperback, you had the opportunity to write the epilogue. The epilogue is a chronicle of what's happened pretty much since Fenn's death. And I thought it was a very accurate representation of what's going on. I don't know how much of it was coincidence in terms of things like Yellowstone and stuff like that. But I thought to myself, considering that this particular treasure hunt has an amazing amount of longevity, are you going to be writing epilogues for the next 10 or 12 years to this book, or
sequel?
I'd love to. It's as I kind of mentioned before, it's like so galling to me every time there's like a new piece of information that comes out, because I would love to just have this thing be like a constantly updated document that, tells the story. Because, it's funny. The people who are on this stream tonight, and the people you guys are talking to are not the audience that I'm writing for there. I'm writing for people who are going to read about this treasure hunt 20 years from now, and say, okay, what happened in that thing, and so I want to give those people the fullest story possible of what happened, and so they can just generally know what went down. And so, I try, as we just mentioned before, it's incredibly frustrating to me because like that's basically as of January, as close as I could get it. And, you try to get it like as close to, can I file tomorrow? Can I file next week? And they say no. And then, again, there's the stuff that's been happening in the probate case. And I would love to get some of that in there, but I can't, it's closed. But, look, maybe at some point they'll do another edition and I can update it then. But, for the foreseeable future, this is probably the last time I get to update it, which again, for me is super annoying. I would love to do more. But, there's only so much that, I don't control the printing press and they do.
Right.
So,
right. So, with that in mind, and before we continue, have you got plans for your next book? Because I know a lot of authors always have the next book in the back of their head.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I am lucky in that I don't, because I have a full-time job, I don't have to be constantly producing the next book. And the way I have done these, it really requires you to kind of immerse yourself in the story. And that doesn't mean I have to do it that way, but that's what I've done on both books that I've done. And frankly, COVID world doesn't make that terribly easy. Nor also does having a 5-year-old or almost 5-year-old and almost 3-year-old. So, the way I do my reporting, I like to throw myself into the scene. I like to really experience it, like to really be on the ground all the time. And that's been very hard to do lately and is very hard to do right now. So, no, honestly, right now, like I've had a few things, people propose things to me, had some discussions, but like to me, the most important thing with a book, because you're going to spend years of your life with this thing, is that you really have to want to do the subject matter. You really have to want to take it on because, if you take on the wrong subject and you're either bored with it or frustrated or it isn't there, or, you're not going to be able to tell the story you want to tell, you're SOL for a long period of time. And so I don't want to do that. And so I have not really found anything that has piqued my interest or that I would have the ability to report out in the way I want to in this period. And so I have the luxury of not having to take any of those on yet. So I haven't. So if people do have great ideas that are, fit that paradigm, I'm happy to hear them because, I'm certainly, open to doing the next thing at whatever time that's appropriate. But I haven't found anything yet that I think is a good enough idea that hasn't been covered enough.
So as I was going through the book on Amazon, the new listing with the new cover, we're going to show it here in just a minute.
Yeah, I noticed a very nice job with that, actually.
Pardon me?
I think they did a very nice job with that. Whoever it is who does these things, and I don't even know who it is. I thought they did a very nice job.
Yeah. So one of the listings, of course, one of the elements that we don't have the benefit of, but you do because you have an official publisher, was all these editorial reviews in addition to the reviews that you get from people. And I went down the list and I didn't see one from Douglas Preston. And I guess I was kind of surprised. I thought he'd be interested in reviewing it, or maybe they just didn't.
No, he's in the book.
He's in the book?
I mean, you wouldn't normally ask somebody who's in the book.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
To provide an impartial review of it.
Yeah, you covered him
chapter
pretty well.
with me, and it was awesome. The rest I didn't read.
Yeah, yeah. He just wouldn't be in that context. It's funny the way those happen. And again, I knew none of this stuff before becoming author person, but generally those are going to be people who have something to do with the subject matter but are not connected with it. Or like for instance, like one of the ones on mine is the book Born to Run, which is done in very similar fashion, and he's a big name and the structure of that is not terribly unlike this. And also the editor of my book was the editor of that book. So, usually if there's a connection in that way, a lot of those things come together that way, and some of the other ones, I don't remember, like Wright Thompson is a guy I tangentially know, through some sports connections we have, other ones are involved in various things. And, it's funny how those all come together. Like on my first book, the one that I was really excited to get is the author Gay Talese, who you may or may not know.
Yeah.
Who is an absolute titan, in the world of journalism, and particularly in what was kind of the new journalism, with Tom Wolfe and all that in the 60s. And he wrote two of the most incredible magazine stories I think have ever existed. One of which was Frank Sinatra Has a Cold, which is a story that tells really about more than anything to that time about who Frank Sinatra is, despite never actually interviewing him. Right. Because Frank Sinatra refused to be interviewed, and yet Gay Talese was able to really relate who this man was in a way that no one had really ever done to that time without ever talking to him. And, it was an incredibly accurate portrayal, as people afterwards, confirmed. But and he did another one on Joe DiMaggio that was just incredible, The Silent Season of a Slug or something. Anyway, so Gay Talese I had met a few times when actually I was on the Yankee beat, and I had helped him out with some work he was doing on some stuff, and we got to know each other a little bit. And when I coming out my first book, he said he'd be willing to quote unquote blurb it for me, which is what those things are called. And so he did that. And that's like, a prized thing in my life that he said that like, this book is good.
Wow.
You should read it, basically, or whatever exactly he said.
That's
But
enough. Like,
yeah, it really does mean a lot,
you
honestly.
should read it.
Yes.
So let's take the book, and then we're going to start taking some questions from the room.
But we do have a couple of super chats we should acknowledge.
We should acknowledge right that. So the first super chat came from, let me pop it open.
The Copper Factory.
Let me see. I got to go back to it. Copper Factory. And we're going to show that. And Dan, thank you very much for the donation. We really appreciate it. And the only two searchers to have a conversation with Jack are named Dan. How about them apples? Yeah, we're going to, you're right, you and this Dan. And we're going to talk about those conversations a little bit further in our conversation with Dan because I'm curious about them. We also got a donation from, let me see if I can scroll down here. Chasing Indy says, Toby, please ask Dan his thoughts on the validity via the auction website comparison to the Condor to Reddit database. Is he aware of the connection? Would he be willing to look into it later on? So Chasing Indy, thank you for the donation. I'll come back to that question for Dan, all right? So that he has time to think of it. I don't exactly know the connection. So what I know about the auction website is that it was the responsibility of Heritage Auction, and they have the treasure chest in their possession. And as a matter of fact, you'll read this. Dan has highlighted it in the epilogue. And what I'm about to tell you came from Dan's epilogue. So it's at Heritage. They took on the project after Sotheby's, who was our big auction house, chose not to follow up with the project. And as I understand it, they're pricing each of the items and they're going to sell them as lots. Each of the items as lots. Is that true, Dan?
Well, that was, I think, the initial thought. And then, there was some other interest in it as one unit, but the stuff had all been split up. And so, and this is actually, I was stunned that the whole thing is taking this long, but I actually did check with Jack recently. He says it's still in that process, but that they split the stuff up and it went to all these different, appraisers and various people who look at these types of things, experts on this, because you have to send, different things to different places. They don't all just go to one person because there's all these different specialties. And so sending them all out to those places, then getting them back has taken much longer than I think anyone ever anticipated. And so, that's kind of where the process continues to be, which blows my mind, but that's what they say it is. So, that's as far as I know where it is right now.
All right. We'll talk about your relationship with Jack in just a minute. Nomadic Mad Man asks, how many pages are the epilogue? The version that we got a PDF version from the publisher, and it was already in the PDF publishing format. I think I counted 6 additional pages in the epilogue.
That sounds about right. I think it was 14. I think they gave me 1,400 words, and I used almost literally every one.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing that I thought was really interesting is, and I don't remember seeing it in the book. Maybe I just didn't look, but there was a section after the epilogue entitled Notes, where Dan covers a lot of the resources that he used to kind of create, not what was going into the book, but kind of the understanding that he had to have of the treasure hunt. And he went all the way back to 2010, some of the really early articles that were written on it to do it. And it's all in the notes sections of the book. For that alone, for those of you who are interested in collecting Fenn, stories that were written about Forrest, just look at Dan's notes, because he listed the majority of them, including some that I had literally never heard of. And
some of them you can't find on the internet anymore. It's funny, like some of the stuff that that I was looking at in 2017 just to kind of get the lay of the land is just gone now. I mean, it's really crazy. Like you think in your brain that the internet just preserves everything forever, but it very much does not. So
that's good. So let me take a look at the book. I'm going to post it in the chat so you guys can see it. So there's that, and then we're going to do this. Let me do it from YouTube here. Okay, so what we did, and I hope you forgive this for us, it's not in order to steal any of your thunder. We thought the easiest way to do it is to add your book to books.atk Media Studio. This is our store, and it gives us the opportunity to, it says written books we've written or have recommended, and we would strongly recommend you buying Dan's book, it's the easiest way to find it. You can go, of course, to Amazon and do a search on Dan Barbarisi or Chasing the Thrill. But if you go to books.hek Media Studio, it's there. And if you click on it, you'll go straight to his book. And you'll see over here on the side, it says the title will be released on May 24th, 2022, which is early next week, basically.
They can buy it now and pre-order it.
Yeah, you can pre-order it and it'll be shipped. If you buy either the paperback or the hardbound, it'll be shipped the same day. Now, I wasn't quite sure, and I wanted to ask you, is the epilogue going to be added to hardbound editions from this point forward?
No, that's why they do the paperback this way, I guess.
Okay.
It's funny because, like, you know, Penguin Random House, which is my publisher, is like this gigantic monolith that has all these different imprints underneath it. And so like the imprint that's doing the paperback is actually different than the imprint that did the hardcover. So I'm dealing with like totally different people. It's a whole interesting thing. You know, I get 4 people who care about this stuff. So no, I believe it is not, as far as I know, it does not get added to the hardcover. So paperback is the newest. It does get added to the ebook version. So the ebook is just pumped right up to date. But I think for the hardcover, they have to do a bunch of different stuff, and they don't do it. So.
Yeah. So I think so far I bought the ebook, and then as I get older, I buy the Audible versions, and then I bought the hardbound because I wanted to add it to my collection of books. And so I'll buy the paperback, and I'll have all 4 as of.
Look at you, the whole set.
Yeah. So
the next time you come by, you can sign them all.
You can sign them.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to.
So what are the chances you'll find yourself in New Mexico anytime soon?
Ooh, I don't know. You know, it's you know, I don't know. I kind of need a reason to go there, I guess. And most of those have disappeared. But I'd love to go back, obviously, you know. So I had a lot of fun there, and it now is a very prominent place in my life. So I got to know a lot of good restaurants. But you know, I don't know actually when the next time I'd be going out there is, but you know, again, getting through the cold COVID thing will help with that.
Alone or with family, make sure you let us know so that we can have you over the
will.
house. We'll make a big pot of pozole and some tortillas and have a good
see some of that cool stuff in your garage.
Yeah. So how much have you followed the probate case? If you've had a chance.
Not probably as much as you'd think, honestly, you know, because like once I have, you know, once I can't impact the book anymore, you know, I don't have the same need or want to be as up to the minute on everything. You know, I had awareness of it. I read the Outside article, you know, certainly, you know, I had basic concepts of it. I don't claim to be an expert on what's going on there. Certainly, probably, I would guess that most of your, you know, most people in the stream probably know more about the specifics of the probate case than I do.
Yeah. We have been tracking it, and it's coming. I think the judge is at his proverbial wit's end. He wants this done, and he's starting to push it forward. They have to have their books in by the 30th. He'll give them a court date on the 31st, and it's going to happen sometime between June 21st and June 24th, and that will be when he'll make his final ruling. So we don't see anything in the case that's going to cause the family to change much in terms of what they're doing. It's going to be a standard probate case in the end after everything is said and done. Shell, I've been talking here. Did you have any particular questions? I just wanted
to let you know we had another super chat.
Oops. Okay. Well, let's see what's going on there. Is it a question?
It's a clarification.
Okay. So hang on. No, not the heritage. Forrest Fenn treasure. The auction website conspiracies. The one you believe. Oh, I see. So that's actually a question for me, and I'll answer it. So once the treasure was found, and then followed by Forrest's passing, followed by this affidavit that was written by the chief park ranger, and as a matter of fact, I wrote this I think yesterday on the Hint of Riches forum. I wrote what I thought were the facts as we understand them. And so that puts the auction site that I was so enthused about last year or the year before out of the question. I'm at the stage where I have accepted the facts as we know them. Forrest Fenn hid a treasure in 2010 in Wyoming. Jack found that treasure in Wyoming in 2020. They had a meeting with the Yellowstone National Park and some other government officials in which they identified the location precisely. and the government now has that. And I'm happy with that as a final resolution. I did get a question as to whether or not I would try to pursue the figuring out the poem. And my answer in the simplest terms, since it was a yes or no question, I said no, that I'm not going to do that. My personal objective now is to find the people. I know where San Lazaro is, and I'm trying to locate the current owners, so to see if I could get them to let me onto the property to do some drone work and some photographic work. And that's for my own purposes, not to publish anything, but I'll share them with the community as we find out. So yeah, I have gotten away from, wanting to make that a worry in my life, as I think that Dan has as well. So
yes, I do know about that website that Candy's referring to now that I understand. And no, I don't put any credence in that either.
Yeah. So for those of you that are interested, I mentioned this earlier, the Linman Auctions, and I should have put the link in here, has put up, they have Forrest Fenn's, I think they've titled it Lifetime Collection of Native American Art and Artifacts. That is going to go on auction on June 9th, and they do accept web bids. And if you ever really wanted that Sitting Bull's peace pipe that Forrest talked about, it's going to close for between $60,000 and $80,000, they expect. So, but what surprised me was the volume. I mean, when I used to go to his house, and you'd see it kind of on the walls around him, but Forrest had collected 10 times what was on the walls. And it's a massive volume of Native American artifacts, with a lot of things that if I was a museum, if I was the Museum of Native American Arts and Crafts in Santa Fe, I would be bidding in this stuff, because it covers a lot of territory. All the dolls that are in the book that I bought last week, they're all up for sale, ranging on the low end from $3,000 on the high end to $10,000. So everything Forrest had in terms of Native American artifacts is in that auction. So go look at the book. The digital version of the catalog is up. They said they'd have the printed version of the catalog by the auction, and I'll order some. Maybe we can get a couple and do a giveaway. So have you seen, how much of that auction have you seen?
Zero. I mean, I knew that it was happening, but no, I have not actually looked at it myself.
Yeah. So I asked you if you were working on a book, and you said there's options. What do you think your next book project is going to turn out like? What do you see happening with your next?
I mean, about all I could say there, because I don't really have anything in mind right now specifically, would be that I'd probably be a little less involved in the story this time around. That's something that it's funny. Like, it's the reasons I did it that way are really as a narrative device, because it allows you to take more control over the narrative in an area where you don't know what the ending is going to be, which is a very tough way to write a book. That's why you don't see a lot of books that start and finish where the ending is completely open-ended. Usually it's, here's what happened, then somebody reconstructs it, But, to kind of dive in the middle of something that's happening in real time, I thought that was the best way to approach it. But, it also does, it's funny. For somebody who has written 2 books in the first person, I really don't like writing in the first person. I actually think it's, I kind of dislike it as a form. And I'd rather not do it that way. I'd rather just, be the 10,000 foot, view of the whole thing. So I would think that probably whatever I would end up doing next would be in that detached narrative style. And again, this is kind of inside baseball talk, but that's about as far as I've gotten with it, in terms of, like there was something that I was maybe toying with this book about a lot of tech stuff, and that was about, and people were trying to pitch me on that. And I was like, okay, I mean, at least that's that kind of a thing where I can kind of just take a story from start to finish and tell what happened without having to worry about how it's going to end and having no idea what's going to happen with it, or if there is going to be an ending or what, So yes, I'd probably like a lower stress book in terms of knowing what's going to happen in the end and having it not, again, as we clearly see now, continually unfold, and the story never really ends. So, as an author, you really like to have those things tied up neatly in a bow, and this one is certainly not that kind of story.
So you mentioned in your notes and gratitude for the guys that had written books regarding treasure hunts, from the small ones to the Atocha. So if another treasure hunt of this magnitude were to arise, how interested would you be in following that?
Not terribly, to be honest. And that's not because of anything, happened. It's just like, I'm a generalist. My last book was about fantasy sports gambling. That has very little to do with treasure hunting. I mean, I was before I became a sports writer, which was kind of foisted on me, I was a news reporter, and I did nothing to do with sports. And so I did that for like, 7 or so years. And I did sports writing for like 7 or so years. And now I kind of do sports writing, but really, I'm an editor. So I do like much more people management. I like to do things and then do something that is completely different. I don't get the same excitement out of being involved in something that I kind of feel like I have at least experienced to that extent. That's actually something that Forrest and I talked about a number of times about, he's certainly, you guys are very familiar with the way he talked, how, you do something for a certain amount of time and then you go off to something else and, you expand your life that way. And, I agree with that concept very much so. And that's how you kind of keep yourself fresh in so many ways. So, I mean, you never say never to anything, but I would be surprised if that was the kind of thing I took on just because, I'd probably be in the market for something very different that would pique my curiosity in a new way and be something I wouldn't know about at all.
So Forrest, of course, as we all know, was a really interesting character. And the more I learn about him, and I'm still learning about him, the more eclectic I find him to have been. I was in Santa Fe a couple of weeks ago, and I picked up another couple of his books, the one on dolls and the large book on TP Smoke. Let's see, J. I forgot the artist's name, but it's an amazing effort and work. And I would think to myself, Forrest Fenn never struck me as a kind of guy that could sit down for months on end and do a book that required significant amounts of research, because that struck me as a kind of hard. They're like, he was too busy with everything else. Where did he find the time? But when you read them, they have Forrest in them. You feel Forrest in them. And again, the more that I read about him, the more that I pick up about him, you can tell he just had a level of eclecticness that you just don't imagine until you see all the work that he put. Did I make up a word?
I think so. I have to ask the expert there.
I think it's eclecticness. Yeah, I think you can let it go. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think what he had, was energy. In so many ways that, it's a hard thing to have. Look, as we all get older, it's hard to take on new things. It's hard to step outside yourself. It's hard to go jump into something you don't know about and explore it and live it. It's so much easier to just kind of stay with what you've done before. But, he was one of those people who just had the energy to go attack new things all the time. And I think that's, a truly rare quality, and especially to have that to the ages he had it is really incredible. And I think that defines a lot of the things he did.
So I got a question from Nomadic Mad Man, and I'll have an answer to it, but I want you to answer it. Any surprises or fun facts in the epilogue?
I mean, it's funny. My guess would be probably more towards the fun facts than the surprises end of things. I didn't really see it that way. I was holding stuff back. I'm just trying to catch things up again for the general reader. For the regular person out in the world, yes and yes. Right. For the people who are asking questions in here, probably not. Although I would say there's probably stuff that is definitely fleshed out more than it's been in there. But again, I had 1,400 words, and I don't know. I'm sure my publisher would be telling me not to undersell it the way I'm doing, but try to be honest about things. For this crew, you're probably going to know the basic strokes of what's in there. Although I do think that there is, there's detail and stuff and all that is probably going to be new to most people. I would say for sure.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you a chance to take a little break here because I noticed that we went over 100 viewers, and I promised that if we went over 100, what we would give away tonight is the last of our not for resale. When you publish a book on Amazon, this guy gets as many as he wants. When you publish a book on Amazon, one of the things that Amazon does is it sends you 5 free copies, and they mark them right here. You can see not for resale, right? And they tell you they're not. We didn't sell any of them. What's interesting, so this is the last of those 5 free copies, but this is also the one, and I'll flip. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me see if I can do this so you can see it. I don't have my other camera up. This is the edition that Shelley went through and highlighted all the hints and clues in the book. And if you remember, I did kind of the same thing. I flipped through it, and I think it was 3D Bronze went back through that video, and he slowed it down as each page was going through. So not only is it a one of a kind, not for resale, last one, but this is the one where Shelley highlighted all of those hints and clues that are in the book. We will, of course, sign it. And so tonight's giveaway is going to be this book, because I promised you if we ever went over 100, we'd do that. Okay. So Shelley's going to come up with a trivia question here in just a bit that you need to answer, and we'll give away that book.
All right.
All right. So let's get to something that I know everybody is interested in, and if they're not, I am interested in, and that is, tell me as much as you can about your relationship with Jack, starting with when you first met him and how the relationship progressed. I know over time he's become less and less available and I'm sure he has his reasons. I'm not going to debate that, but tell me what your experiences with him were like from the first time you met him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is in the book for sure. But yeah, I mean, for the first time I ever had contact with him was through the Medium piece. As I wrote there that I kind of reached out in the flag of typo or whatever they call it. I don't remember, but
yeah.
section. Then he got back to me, and I was like, oh, hooray! This is amazing. I get to talk to whoever this person is. And then we had like whatever that was, 2 months of corresponding without my actually knowing who he was, which was very weird. When you're having that level of back and forth with somebody, and it was mostly just me trying to convince him to let me interview him, but he obviously also let me see the treasure in that time. So I obviously knew he was legit. So that was cool. And then, again, as I said, some random topics where he, decided he wanted to talk about baseball. I'm like, okay, I'm talking about baseball. Because I wanted him to, to trust me enough to talk to me and actually let me interview him. And then, from the time when I actually knew who he was and then actually got to, see his face via that Zoom interview we did.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, then you're going to have, a level of maybe understanding the person a little bit better. And, look, it's not like I feel like I know him well, but, you certainly have this interesting experience of having this person who you didn't know who they were at all. And then you're kind of getting to understand a little bit about them and kind of getting to know them a little bit. But, that's still like the only time I've ever seen his face, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. That's
and what's that? Yeah, that Zoom interview. Exactly. And then, we would text on various things, and I've spoken to him on the phone a number of times since then, but, not terribly often. It's basically like, when I need to update something, and, because he trusts me, which is good. And I'm happy about that. And, I obviously, you can see there's quotes from him in the epilogue and all that. And I said, can you tell me where things are at this time? Because I have to update this book and, will you help me with that? And he said, yeah, sure. And then, I checked in with him again very recently, saying, hey, I'm going to do some interviews. Is everything still the same, like with the chest and stuff? And yeah, still the same. And so, but that's, it's largely what it is at this point. We have what I would call a, pleasant business interaction in the sense that I am an author who talks to him about stuff that he's involved with. And, he is a subject of a book I have written. So, that's pretty much what it is. But, he's pleasant enough. So
how much of a review of the book did he give you, if he reviewed it at all?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I'm not going to say specifically what he said, but, I think we were on the same page on pretty much everything on it, which I was happy about. And, that look, the things that were important to me about it were that the people who were, significantly quoted in the book, were happy with it and understood it and all that. And that meant a lot to me. So, yourself included. So,
and we were happy. We talked about that. We were very happy.
And that's very nice for me to hear, So.
I think we talked a little bit off the record that night, but I told you at the beginning of the conversation, everything was on the record unless I said it was off. And you respected that. And so I was very pleased with that. I do have a question from the room, and it is a leading question. It says, we're super curious about the date that Jack found the treasure and was hoping Dan might want to talk about that a little. Can you ask him if he wants to talk about the date that Dan found the treasure? And the impression I get is that the expectation is that it is different from what has been published.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen that speculation. Look, I mean, that's stuff I asked Jack about too, and like, this is in the book the first time and now, in that, like, I asked him that stuff, and there's things he's cagey about, and there's things that he won't say fully, and anytime there's that kind of stuff, I think it's absolutely fair to wonder, like, what are we not knowing here,
Right. Yeah.
And so I totally understand those lines of inquiry, like 100%, and I had them too, and I have asked him, and asked him on the record, like, when did you do this stuff? And he says, I'm not going to get into exact times on this thing. Okay, well then, then of course we're going to wonder about that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he was extremely explicitly clear with me that, on the afternoon of June 5th, went and did this, it's as I wrote it in the book. And that is like, was very interesting to me that he was very explicit about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think anytime when, there's things where he's not going to answer it, I think it's extremely fair for all of us to say, well, okay, what's that mean? And, so I totally get that in every way.
So this is a question for me. We found out recently, as a result of an affidavit that was prepared for a U.S. government motion into the probate case, that he sat down sometime in August of 2020 with his attorney, with Forrest, with two members of the Yellowstone National Park Police, and what was stated as other government officials, in which he told them the precise location of the treasure. Had you and he spoken about that particular meeting prior to it coming out in the court?
I was aware that he had a meeting with government officials. That was all I knew. And then he had told me that, and so this is interesting. This is how stuff, for instance, like when you make an on and off the record agreement with somebody, and again, in that agreement, the source and the reporter have to both agree to that. And I agreed to that would be off the record when he told me, because I was looking for additional proof that all the stuff he said was real, And so, one of the things that he provided me with as proof was the fact that he had met with government officials about the chest. But he did not tell me any of the specifics, because then that might let me know where it was.
Right. Yeah.
Another agreement was made was that I was not going to find, I was not going to be able to use the information to try to divine the location or any of that. So I was aware that he had a meeting with the government and Fenn, whatever that meant, but I didn't know who or specifically when or, who was involved in that. So that was a means of essentially corroborating that the government knew about it, which was more evidence that he was who he said he was. Because again, I had to try to establish that on my end, because I'm interviewing this guy and trying to giving him my imprimatur to say, like, I think this guy is essentially telling the truth here for all the stuff that at least I'm putting in the book. Again, there's stuff he wouldn't tell me, stuff I just don't know.
Right.
But for that purpose, that he confirmed that for me, that he had talked to the government and that they had an understanding of it and they knew some things about it. Again, I didn't know what. But that was certainly a point of evidence in favor of, this guy is who he says he is and found the chest and all that.
So you have admitted to being not only an author but a treasure hunter as well.
Admitted, I mean, that was like the whole part of the. It's funny, like it's so funny to me that so when I went to Fenbury the first time, right, 2017, I couldn't tell people fast enough that I was also searching for the treasure, because that was my in, that was what I was there to do. That was why I thought people would treat me differently than just some random reporter. So I've joked it many times that I should have had that tattooed on my forehead, because it would have saved me the trouble of being well, I'm not only, trying to report about this, but I'm also trying to be an active searcher so I can understand, what it is that people do and understand how they feel about it. Because that was what made people open up to me. That was a good thing. I wanted everybody to know about that. That was my in. So anyway, yeah.
Well, so with that in mind,
yeah,
we all had locations. Many of us still have locations that we would continue to travel to, if nothing else, to go trout fishing. But I never asked you, and I don't ever remember asking you, where you thought the treasure was, and whether or not the last 2 years worth of information, of a limited amount of information, has changed your mind, or where you think the treasure might have been as of now.
Okay, so first of all, I was a terrible searcher, as it were. I mostly just tagged along to whatever, my treasure hunting partner B, but he did all the thinking of that. And I was okay, I go here. I didn't know anything. And I didn't expect to know anything. Again, for me, it was not about finding the treasure in that way. It was having the experience of being a treasure hunter so that I could relate that to the world. But I wanted to feel the emotions of it. I wanted to feel the excitement of it. But 99.9% of the ideas were his. I was terrible at it. But so I mostly thought it was in New Mexico, which clearly was not New Mexico. But I will say, I never really thought it was in Colorado. Like at any point did I think that it was in Colorado.
I was with that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the sense that it might have been in Montana, I would have thought that it would have been basically in Yellowstone in Montana. So, and maybe if there was the slices that would have gone.
Right. Yeah.
But, Beep always thought it was in Yellowstone. And I, was totally on board with that because, there's so much obviously about Fenn and that lined up with that. And so, once we were told that it was in Wyoming, I was very much like, oh yeah, it's got to be in Yellowstone. I mean, that makes sense. So, the fact that we're hearing all that and that all of this seemed to point to that in every way, is at this stage no surprise to me. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. As soon as it was found and they said, it's in Wyoming, I was like, well, obviously I'm an idiot and New Mexico was wrong. And, that all made sense to me. So.
Well, I had to be honest with a lot of people after we decided to pivot, and somebody asked me, why didn't you ever give up on New Mexico? And the answer I gave them was because I didn't have to travel so far. Driving up to, we did search in Colorado. We searched, I don't know how many times in Wyoming. And I just went like, I'm just going to put it in New Mexico. There were a couple of times I think that friends of Forrest told me that it made him mad. One was when I said, oh, screw it, I'm looking in New Mexico. And then the other time was, oh, screw it, I'm not even going to use the poem. I'm just going to go where I think it is and look for it around there. And that really infuriated him that I would do that. So I've got a question from Ben and or Ashley. He says, does Dan have any thoughts on when Jack would let us know the contents of the olive jar? Or do we have to wait until it's sold?
I truly have no idea. I have never talked to him about that. So I don't know. I don't know. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. So you've got a job. You've got an update to the book. And it is my opinion that this book could probably be updated with an epilogue every year.
Hey, tell the publisher I'll do it. I'd like to. Again, I look at this as a historical document. As close as I can get it to that, and so I'd love to have it be, again, 20 years from now, as full of story as we can get it to be. That's the form it takes. But that's unfortunately not totally up to me. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's so frustrating that they told me 8 months ago or whatever, the paperback's going to come out in May, and I'm like, can I push it a little past that, just give myself more time? And they're like, no. And then, you don't have any control over that, which is just so frustrating. But yeah, no, again, look, if they give me the chance to update it, I'll update it anytime. So.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's an enjoyable read. It is very easy to listen to. And I'm glad that I have a
sorry, you had to listen to me for like 8 hours then.
Yeah, it was actually very good because you're at a good pace. Now, I have to admit, there was one night where I had to slow you down to like 0.75.
I do talk a little fast.
Yeah, because but it was a good read, and it was a good listen because I listen to my books when I'm driving, and if I have a long drive, I can get through one or two books, just from that. And it was very different from what I normally do. Normally, I listen to political stuff and international. So let me see. What. Here we go. So maybe you can answer this for Copper Dan, who's made a 10. You know what? I haven't done. So here's for that one. So I've missed doing that all night. Shelley usually reminds me of that. So Dan wants to know, how can I get a signed copy of Dan's book? I'd like one for myself and one to give away to raise money for St. Jude's.
That is a very good question, and it's actually not one I have a very good answer to. So like when I first, when the book first came out, the hardcover version, they had me sign like 400 of these things called book plates that they then put in certain copies of them that, have the signature in them and all that. And I, some of those exist in the world. I don't really know exactly where. Other than that, it's kind of a pain to do it. I'd love, if this had been like the regular world and not COVID times, I would have done like book signings around the initial launch. And, I did those for the first book and all that. And instead you had to do all these, online events, which are not the end of the world, but you just don't get to do that stuff. And it stinks because you'd actually like to talk to people and see people. And those are enjoyable. So, I don't really know. I'm sorry. There are definitely signed copies floating around the internet. You can probably get one of those for the same price, I assume, that you can get, the main version of it. But I don't really have a good answer for that right now. But if I am ever in Copper Dan land, I will happily sign the thing. I have no
It's up
issue
in
doing that.
Minnesota. So
Minnesota. I love the state of Minnesota. I have had great times in, the Twin Cities, but I am not there very often, I will say.
Well, I guess I guess I didn't. I should have asked this question before. The publisher's name is in the book, of course, and if you contact them, and they tell you how to contact them. If you contact the publisher, eventually they'll see that there's enough interest in having signed copies of the book that they might send him a bunch, have them sign.
They might also have those book plate things. Like I assume they didn't use them all. They actually might have those. I don't really know, but yeah, I mean, Knopf is the publisher.
I know what you're talking about because I put my own in all my own hardbound books, the book plates. So
yeah. So I mean, they probably have like a stack of those sitting in an office somewhere, and you kind of like paste them. You just peel the back off and stick it in. Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm not more help in this. It's a totally nice question and a nice thing, and I just suck. So.
Oh, okay. So this is I actually had this question because I saw it in the most recent version I have. Julio asked, per the map insert with the ebook, who picked the map insert? Did Jack have any influence on it? Thanks.
No. So at some point they asked me, I don't remember exactly what point of the process it was, like, do you want a map in your book? And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And they said, what do you want the map to be of? And I drew like on a piece of paper. It was the most like second graderish drawing ever. I was like, Colorado, Wyoming. And they were like, and what do you want in it? They're like, what thing is highlighted? I'm like, I don't know, Santa Fe, whatever. And, Yellowstone, West Yellowstone. And it really was like a piece of paper. And I just scanned it in and sent it over to them. And then they had some person, some like artist. I think they sent me 2 options. And annoyingly, they were like, okay, that'll be $600. And I was like, oh, I have to pay for that? Damn it. I'm just not aware of that fact. But I was like, all right, fine. Thank you.
We'll just take it out of the proceeds.
What's that? Yeah.
Just take it out of the proceeds.
Yeah, no. So I definitely got charged for that. But no, Jack definitely had nothing to do with that whatsoever. So that was almost definitely done before I certainly had any idea who he was, and probably before I had ever had any contact with him. I think that would have been like almost a full year before.
Right.
So I can look back, but it doesn't really matter because Jack definitely had nothing to do with the stupid map that I drew on the paper.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a little bit more time for last questions. Shelley, did you have a question, or is that your
That's a trivia question.
Trivia question? All right. Okay.
Maybe Dan would just like to answer in general. Is there anything you would like to say that we didn't ask you about?
No, not particularly. You guys just ask me most stuff, I think. I don't know. You can ask me the trivia question if you want, but I can't win. No, that's for the people. I'm glad you didn't have me come with the trivia question because I couldn't think of it.
Hey, why not? If you want
all right, I will ask a random trivia question that is completely unconnected to absolutely anything in here. But and so no one's going to get anything for winning it. But
wait. So let's do this. So you can ask a random trivia question.
It is very random.
All right. Hand me one of the Gypsy's Kiss. Whoever comes up with the answer to Dan's question in the chat room, we'll send you a copy of a Gypsy's Kiss. Not the
other. It's going to be such a letdown of a trivia question. I can't tell you how much you're going to be annoyed at me about this, but it's actually funny because I had to come up with a trivia question for a friend's birthday not that long ago. They made like a trivia game thing for him, and they were like, come up with something that he would like, and I was like, okay, I'll come up with like a random trivia question, and so it's about that, and it is very weird. So
let's do a weird trivia question for a copy of Gypsy's Kiss. Okay. Spelling counts.
Yes. Well, this won't be that hard, but okay. So,
all right, first one in the chat room wins.
Streamers, what 1980s movie featured 2 future U.S. governors in starring roles? I should say 1980s action movie to make it more specific. Featured 2 future U.S. governors in starring roles.
Oh, I know the answer. I'm not going to answer it.
There you go. Good job, Tony. I didn't. It was not supposed to be that hard. Just very weird. And again, directed to this other guy's birthday thing.
Well, he says Goonies. No, it wasn't Goonies. It's an action. It's an action flick. So think of the governors. If Ben doesn't get this, who cares? Says Predator. Nope. No, it's not.
Well, wait, who said that? Because that is exactly what it is.
Oh, is it? Is it?
Yes.
So who cares?
Who cares is the first one that said it.
Yeah.
Apparently that guy cares.
Predator. So one was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who was the other?
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Jesse Ventura.
Running around with the big old minigun that was called Old Painless. And
I saw them in Commando. They were also in Commando.
I don't believe Jesse Ventura was in Commando.
No. All right.
I do not think which would have made that a moot point. But yeah, no, I don't believe Jesse Ventura was in Commando.
Okay. Jesse, who cares? Oh, wrong book. Sorry. Who cares? Send your name and shipping address to 505-750-2744, your real name. Add your screen name so I know who I'm referring to. Excuse me. And if you want to track the shipment, send me your email address as well. So that USPS will track it. Congratulations. Who cares?
We care. That's who cares.
Yeah.
That is a long sound effect, isn't it? Oh, okay. Didn't mean to do that.
It's even longer when you do it twice.
All right. Let me get one more question. I think Hooli had one. Chasing Indy. So chasing, let me see if I can put it up there, but I have to go back here.
All right, yeah, I do actually have to get back to work, unfortunately, because my Red Sox stories are waiting there. So yeah, let's make this the last one if that's possible.
Okay. Last one. How many more interviews does Dan have lined up for this month?
I think that's a little variable. I think 3. So
okay, that's good.
And I don't know. This month is not necessarily the boundary there, but I think in general, that's what I'm going to do.
Because the publishing date is May 24th. Again, let me pop it up here one last time. Go to, you can go and ask for the book, but you can go to books.agkmedia.studio, and it's one of the books that we've listed there. So you can find it there. I can prove it to you. Books.agk. Yeah, there we go. So you can see we've listed it as one of ours. I'll even give it a little heart. How's that? Oh, it's going to make me sign in. I can't sign in.
Never mind.
So go to books.agk Media Studio and Dan's book there as well. The shipping date is May 24th. Or if you buy the Kindle, the ebook version, the download date is the 24th. So let me come back here to us. All right, Dan. Safe travels. I know you're going to be going up to a wedding in, is it upstate New York?
No, the big city place.
Big city, New York.
So, yeah.
And that you're driving with 2 boys and wife. So it should be an exciting adventure going.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So have fun with that. Thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to get back together a little bit. So
we look forward to it.
Absolutely.
If you ever find yourself in the area.
Absolutely. And Shelley, again, best of luck with everything with your mom. And, hopefully see you guys at some point soon.
We look forward to it. Thanks.
Yes,
all right. Thanks.
Best wishes to your family. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit before we go on with the giveaway. Let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen the rest of the week. So tomorrow, Shelley has Women Conquer Business. Her friend and business partner, Jen, is on a vacation in the Netherlands of the Portland, the Oregon coast, and she's living in a yurt without any internet connection.
Oh, she has internet.
Oh, she does have internet, but she can't do it.
Wi-Fi.
Right.
And her phone.
But Jen
she
asked,
texted me, and I'm like, "You're supposed to be in a yurt."
Yeah. Jen asked if I would sit in with Shelley for that show. So we're going to be talking about setting up your a studio, even a compact studio for somebody that doesn't have an old bedroom to do it in. And then on Saturday, I'm going up to. So there were a bunch of motions released this week as a result of the hearing on Monday. The hearing we will talk about on Saturday. I didn't set up a separate show for it simply because it just wasn't that much. And I knew the judge kept asking for the motions to be filed this week. So we'll talk about all of that on Saturday. We'll review the motions and I'll tell you what each one of them means. And what I can tell you is that, as I mentioned to Dan, is the judge is pushing this forward very quickly. The parties have until May 30th to turn in the last of their documents. They call them notebooks that'll have all their witness lists and any documentary evidence that they're going to put into the case. And he said he would give them a court date on May 31st, and he asked them what days they had available. And the consensus between the two of them was between June 21st and June 24th. It's the last half of the week there. So that's when the case is going to be. So he's really pushing it forward. The extension in time to have Jack deposed was not granted. He denied the motion. which means there's a very good chance that Jack is not going to be deposed for this case. He is on the estate's witness list, but as of yesterday, there was no. They have to issue another subpoena to bring him in as a witness, and the judge said that all the participants have to be physically in court in Santa Fe, which means if they were to bring Jack onto the stand, he would have to travel here, and whoever forced him to be, not forced, subpoenaed him to be a witness would have to pay his travel expenses, because he could say, I can't afford the travel expenses. So, and he probably can't, so it's a dang treasure hasn't been. So we'll talk about all that with the motions. Like I said, I'll go up on Friday and get all those motions. Then we'll talk about them next Saturday night. Okay. You got a trivia question for the gang here?
I do. It's kind of a longish one, but
I don't have it. I don't have any pictures.
you want to type it in? No, we didn't. I didn't. Anyway, do you want to type it in while I'm reading it, or do you want me to type it in and you read?
You better type it in, because you're a much better typist than I am.
Okay. I don't know if you can read this because I made kind of a mess of it.
Okay. In 2017, we were interviewed by a foreign language reporter.
EIGN. Using a translator. What language did that interviewer speak, and in what country did that interview appear?
So it's a two-part. You have to have both
Did I
answers.
spell everything right?
I say. So you have to. It's a two-part question, right? I mean, it's
Two answers.
You have to have two answers to qualify. One will not be enough.
One's a language, one's a country.
Right. So let me just hit the go on that, and there's the question for you, and then I will post it in the room. There it is. In 2017, we were interviewed by a foreign language reporter using a translator. What language was it, and what? And that you will win. The winner of this, since we went over 100 tonight, the winner will get the one-of-a-kind, not for resale, highlighted by Shelley book. All right. So we still have time to do that. Oops, dang nabbit. Didn't mean to do that. There we go.
We're getting some guesses.
Getting some good guesses. Portuguese, Brazil, nice.
Remember the language and the country.
Yeah. German in Germany. Yeah.
Let's see if they can figure it out. Do we have anything else you wanted to talk about while we're waiting?
No, I do want to make one last mention of what we're doing. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do it tonight because I didn't want to interrupt Dan. But if you're over the next couple of weeks, if you are going to make a super chat, we would prefer that you send it to this address, paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss. And the reason is Shelley and I, as you guys know, Shelley has been dealing with a stroke that her mother had. And we felt like it was funny because we both had the idea. And when we got together, like, oh, let's do this. It would be, they still use landlines in their house. They have no internet, digital communications. So what we thought we'd do is we would go up there and set up a little miniature studio so that she can maintain contact with her family and friends and doctors. So we're going to do that. And instead of going to Super Chat, we would prefer that you send it to paypal.me/a gypsy's kiss, because that way YouTube doesn't take a 30%. And I'm sorry, don't get me wrong. I really appreciate what you guys did for Super Chat tonight. But over the next couple of weeks as we do it, and honestly, we're not begging for donations. This will get done one way or the other. But if you'd like to contribute to it, we'd appreciate it. All right. So.
Yes. Thank you, Huli. We have a winner. We have OK Larry with the right answer. The language was Japanese and the interview appeared in Japan.
Yep.
Tobi-san and Sheri-san.
Sheri-san, they kept calling her Sheri-san. And then they'd speak in Japanese, and they had a Japanese translator. And what was interesting about the translator, there was some words that she wasn't accustomed to using, like, there was one, treasure chest. I mean, it was like she had to think for a minute of how you say treasure chest in Japanese in order to translate. And I don't talk as fast as Dan, but I talk pretty fast. And so they had to keep stopping me and say, could you say that again slow? But it was really because they kept referring to us as Tobi-san and Shetty-san. It was just really cute. And it was a fun interview.
So we get to celebrate.
Yeah, we do. Let's do that. Oh, no, we're not. No.
Not the womp womp. The womp womp is for everybody who said Spanish.
Yeah. All right. So
congratulations to OK Larry.
OK Larry. Didn't OK Larry win something recently? We're not going to take it away. This is not you didn't win
He's
anything.
a hero a lot, but I don't think he's
So
won anything
OK Larry, if you send go to 505, send a text message to 505-750-2744. Send me your name, your screen name, your shipping address, and if you want to keep track of how the book is progressing towards you, send me your email address, and I'll put that in the USPS notation, and they will keep you updated. So 2 giveaways tonight. 1, 2.
Who cares?
No. I care because it's really important. Otherwise, I don't. Oh, you mean who cares? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that.
That was their screen name.
I thought you were being a wise guy. Thought you was being a wise guy. Last words?
We appreciate all of you for being here this evening. We do hope that you will join us again Saturday night for more of the same. And that's all I have. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your donations. And
Huli says,
yeah.
Toby, next show, maybe you can post a direct PayPal link.
Pay direct.
I thought that was our, let me see. Give me a second. PayPal.me/
We worked on that all afternoon.
Yeah. So it goes where it's supposed to go. I'm not logged in. So let me just give you the whole thing. Oh, that's what it's doing. Okay.
Why?
Huli, because it puts the whole PayPal.com/PayPal me. So it's very different from what they tell you to use. All right, here it is. There. Let me put that in there, Huli. So that should get you there. Try it, Huli, and let me know if it actually gets you there. So that's what it looks like. I don't know why the PayPal.me /gypsies, because yeah. So if you use that one, it'll get there. Huli, check that out and let me make sure that it's working the way. Well, here, I'll just click on it here. Yeah, it gets you to the right place. So, but maybe it's the difference between the not the whole link and okay.
The link.
Well, we got 2 giveaways.
Nothing but the link.
We got 2 giveaways tonight.
That
All right.
was fun. We'll have more giveaways on Saturday, so please do join us.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, and it was a good interview with Dan. I like him a lot. You're right. You got to slow him down to about 0.75 because he really does talk fast. But it's good because he puts out a lot of information in a very short period of time, and he wants to talk about his book. And again, if you want to buy Dan's book, go to books.agkmedia.studio. And you'll find it there with a list of our books as well. You don't have to buy our books. It was just easier to do it that way. Okay. I'm going to take down the banner, and I'm going to take down the comment and that one. And then I'm going to go to brand, and I'm going to do outro. Say your good nights.
Good night.
Love you guys.
Thank you for joining the conversation on News and Views, an AGK Media Studio livecast, hosted by Shelley Carney and Toby Eunice. Please subscribe and leave a comment or question, and we'll consider your ideas for future shows. Share this show with your family and friends, and invite them to become a member of our community. Check the show notes for links and resources, and please come back again next week.